Ohio State and Texas, the rematch coming on Saturday as we welcome in Tony Gerdeman from BuckeyeHuddle.com. Gerd, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Good to be back. Good to have football here.
Ryan Day also said this is going to be a good barometer. I know you've dabbled in meteorology in years past, but what exactly did Day mean by saying this is going to be a barometer for this Buckeye team?
Well, the best way to find out about your team is to play somebody that challenges you in every facet. And so that's what this game is going to do. They're not going to learn a lot about themselves against Grambling, but this game is kind of it's a truth serum. It's a lie detector, if you will, to have everybody on your roster challenged by somebody across from them in an actual game. That happens in practice, but this is a game where all of the results matter. So what they find out in this one, Ryan Day keeps saying, and all the coaches keep saying, we're going to get some really good film off of this, and you'll find out who's a little bit lacking in terms of what you needed from them, who's good to go. I've said before, if you see freshmen out there in this game, that tells you an awful lot about how those freshmen have been playing and how the coaches feel about those freshmen. So just like little things like that will give you some semblance of an idea. But yeah, coming out of this one, they're going to know where they're short, where they're long, where they're good, where they need help. And I think that's one of the reasons you like these games, because it sets you up the rest of the season.
I think it's fair to say, coming off a national championship, up until the 12th game of the regular season, Ryan Day's playing with house money. There's a lot more pressure on Texas this week than Ohio State.
Yeah, and Texas number one, they are the hunted, if you will. Um, so they've got the pressure. They come into Ohio Stadium. I think opening the season on the road with the new starting quarterback is never ideal. New offensive line is never ideal. Ohio State, like you said, a little bit of house money right now, but they also have some advantages, just having the home field and having some experience up front. And yeah, but it's like you've got Ryan Day will say, well, yeah, you've got some credit built up, but don't lose this game, because then it's the APR on a loss really, really high, and it all comes due that month. So yeah, like this is a game. Both coaches have said it, and I don't know that Ryan Day said it as specifically, but Steve Sarkisian said it on Monday that even if you lose this game, the College Football Playoff Committee still likes it, and so there's benefit for both teams, the winner and the loser, in this one down the road.
Let's talk a little about this quarterback matchup. Obviously, two new quarterbacks than what we saw in the Cotton Bowl, as both Quinn Ewers and Will Howard have moved on. You've got Arch Manning starting for Texas. You got Julian Sayin starting for Ohio State. And I think a lot of the buzz coming into the camp was that Julian Sayin is maybe more of a traditional drop back passer, not quite as mobile as Lincoln Kienholz. But there's been some pushback from the Ohio State coaching staff the last couple of weeks that Sayin is an athletic quarterback as well.
Yeah, you can even go back to some of the high school scouting services categorized him as a dual threat quarterback, and maybe that was because he's only like 6 foot 6'1", and 185 pounds at the time. But he can move around, as Ryan Day said on Tuesday. He's got short area quickness. He can escape. He can. One of the things that they kind of need the quarterback to do is just be able to pull the ball and take off with it on the read options, and that's something that Julian Sayin can do. He can do it, but will he do it? Will he be encouraged to do it? When Ryan Day compared his mobility to CJ Stroud, you're like, well, yeah, we know CJ Stroud can run, but he didn't, and he wouldn't until that last Georgia game, essentially, when he finally started running a bit. And then you watch him in the NFL, and he's biding time and escaping some pass rush and getting upfield when he needs to. So yeah, he can run, but they also have to allow him to do so. I don't know that they're going to call a ton of runs, but you saw what happened last year with the running game. When you have a running option at quarterback like they had with Will Howard, you don't have to run it a bunch. You just have to be able to run it at times to keep the defense honest. Because when they didn't have that, it was a lot more difficult for the Buckeyes to just use their running backs to run.
Speaking of those running backs, it's a whole new backfield for Ohio State as C.J. Donaldson, the transfer from West Virginia. You've got James Peoples coming back, a Texas native, but of course he grew up an Ohio State fan. They're going to be splitting the lion's share of the carries in that backfield, but true freshman Bo Jackson's made a name for himself as well.
Yeah, and Ryan Day said they had three running backs that they trusted last week. He said, well, there'll be three running backs that are game ready. And when I asked him who that third running back was, he declined to name him. And he did that this week by saying, Bo Jackson is that guy. And that's another one. Is it 2 carries? Is it 3 carries? Is it just a spell here or there, or is it a drive? Because that's going to tell you how they feel about him. I mean, we already know they really like him, but again, this is an honesty test for the coaches as much as it is for the players. They're going to let you know how they truly feel about somebody in this game. But as Ryan Day also said, just because some freshmen or some players don't play in this game doesn't mean that they won't have a role that builds throughout the course of the season. This is just a different animal. So if you've got a young guy like Bo Jackson playing in this one, that tells you that Bo Jackson is a different animal. But and I'm looking forward to seeing what James Peoples and CJ Donaldson can do. Carlos Lockton, the running backs coach, has kind of bristled at the thought, like whenever somebody mentions, so you're just going to have 2 guys do it again like you did last year, and he's like, no, I got 6 guys that can play, and so you can't just assume what happened last year is going to happen this year. So, having 3 running backs, and then he also mentioned true freshman Isaiah West is a guy that's showing up lately, where they have more depth than they have had in the past, but it's a lot of it's very young. And CJ Donaldson is the only guy who isn't a first or second year player. But I know we're all looking forward to seeing what James Peoples can do because we've seen flashes, but we haven't gotten to see him really do it in a true college football game because when he gets in the game, it's usually a 5-score game and Ohio State's just trying to run out the clock and the opponent knows it.
Interesting discussion on Tuesday. It was brought up that the Texas Longhorns in the Cotton Bowl did a very good job of limiting Jeremiah Smith and his impact in that game. And how will Ohio State try and avoid that while you're breaking in a new play caller in Brian Hartline? And Ryan Day said, the number one thing is to win the game. You don't win the game by giving somebody a lot of touches, but at the same time, to win the game, you kind of have to give your best players touches.
Yeah, it's a catch 22 for number 4 basically. And Texas did a fantastic job last year. Ohio State then went to Carnell Tate, who I think had 7 catches, a season high. The tight ends had 7 catches combined. That was a season high for them. But as Ryan Day also said in that game, if Ohio State just wouldn't have made so many mistakes and so many penalties, then they would have been able to take more advantage of what Texas was doing. So just clean it up and go from there. But with what Texas may or may not do against Jeremiah Smith, you've got to take advantage of everything else that goes on. And in order to do that, you've got to play a clean game. Don't make mistakes. If you know that there's going to be a portion of the defense that is shaded towards Jeremiah Smith, then you've got to be able to take advantage of the weaknesses in the defense. And that's the quarterback's entire job. Ryan Day will tell you do the routine things routinely. And when you have opportunities to get the balls to the playmakers, do that. But also I can't see them just ignoring or letting Jeremiah Smith be this decoy. They need to figure out how to get him the ball and dial some things up for him and get him involved because he's too good just to be just to be a gravitational pull for the defense.
Yeah, 230 some days later, Ryan Day still bothered by those penalties against Texas. So it's really in the first half of that game really kept the Longhorns into it. Let's talk a bit more about Texas offensively. We know all about Arch Manning. We've heard about him for it seems like a decade now. He is finally the number one guy, the starter for Texas, and certainly brings in the pedigree of the Manning family. He's Cooper's son, nephew of Eli and Peyton, and what we saw from him last year in some spot duty and in a couple of starts, he is very talented. Now it's his time to shine.
Yeah, and as everybody will tell you, he's athletic, he's big, he's got a strong arm. Yeah, the pedigree is there as well, and he came up. Some guys come up as a quarterback son. He's basically just quarterback lineage. It's a quarterback family, as everybody knows, and so he's the next guy in line. And I think one of the more interesting things is a lot of these quarterback kids with quarterback dads, and not that that's not what this is, but they have no patience and they just want to get in and start cashing in, whether it's playing time or NIL. And I think one of the things is that's not ever been a concern for them in terms of the NIL stuff, but also the patience that he's had in understanding what it takes to be successful, not just in college, but in the NFL as well. Like, they're coming from they're grounded differently, and they understand that it takes a while to get everything that you want or to get everything acquired that will lead you to the best path forward. And I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Arch. The only thing that gets annoying is when everybody's already anointed him when he started one and a half, 2 games in his career, and he's already in Heisman contention and top 10 list and things of that nature. And it's like, well, let him do that first before you put so much on him that he can't possibly reach those expectations. But yeah, they got to do a good job tackling him and containing him on Saturday.
Certainly big expectations for Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles and Ohio State safety Caleb Downs. I think the big question mark Ohio State defensively is on that defensive line. As a veteran squad last year, all 4 of those starters off the NFL now. So we're going to see some new guys we've heard about for the last couple of years, but we haven't seen them yet. This is going to be the time to see what we exactly have for that Ohio State defensive line.
Yeah, and Edric Houston and Caden McDonald are the 2 big guys inside that people are talking about, and those will be the starters. But Edric Houston was slowed in camp, so how ready is he to go? He said a while back that he would be good to go on for Texas. And when I asked him, so does that mean you're not good to go right now? He's like, I'll be good for Texas. And so that was a few weeks ago. Cade McDonald, people can't say enough good things about it, nose tackle. But Ryan Day mentioned on Tuesday that they're finding depth on the interior, which has been, I think, overall the biggest concern on the team is, do you have more than just 2 guys? And he mentioned about 5 defensive tackles that are stepping up, which is key, which goes along with maybe their 5 defensive ends that they can play as well.
There are certain plays in Ohio State history that live on forever, but I don't know if we've ever had a concession named after one of those. We now have the nacho scoop and score after Jack Sawyer's scoop and score that led to the victory against Texas. Tony Gerdeman, are you looking forward to those nachos?
You know what? It will beat the press box meal. So, and you know what I'm talking about.